And we close out the B Squad week with what was probably going to be the most controversial pick for this week, because all week long we've been reviewing horror icon movies that focus on characters who they've got their fans, but they never quite broke into the mainstream. You know, they're not up there with like Michael Myers or Freddy or Jason. However, I feel like this is one that a lot of people are going to argue with. This is one that the fans of Re-Animator are like, no, this is a big A-class character. I guarantee you it is not. I think that this is a good movie. I definitely think it's a good movie. And the character of Herbert West, the Re-Animator himself, he is loaded with personality. He is definitely a character that horror movie fans have come to know and love, and for a good reason. But yeah, the mainstream audience out there, they still have no idea what this movie is.
I mean, like, I'm the mainstream audience. I have heard of this movie, but I haven't really heard about this movie.
Yeah, you are aware it exists.
Yes, that's pretty much how the mainstream audience is like with the Re-Animator.
They've probably heard of it somewhere, but
yeah, but it's like, so it's not quite A-list, but a little bit of, not quite.
It's almost reaching it. It's
like
right
B
there.
A minus B plus movie material.
Yeah, so that's why I said, like, yeah, this is the one that we should really go out on. Which, by the way, if you were watching at the beginning of this week when we said, hey, this is going to be the B Squad week, I said that originally we were going to do a completely different theme, and just kind of lined up that it matched this theme as well, and this was a much better theme than what we were going to do. So I had no plans of watching Re-Animator, but then eventually I went, okay, we're going to turn into the B Squad week, and Re-Animator, that fits, but it's kind of big, so we'll close out this week with it. I think we're actually going to go out on October 10th. I think that is actually going to be the final day of this. And there was a moment in which we were watching this movie, and they do their first experiment, and they go, what day is it? October 10th. I went, oh my God, it was fate. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so hey, kind of lined up like that. So I just want to let everybody know, if you are a diehard Re-Animator fan and you know it's like, yeah, October 10th, that's the day they did their experiment. We did not do this on purpose. It just lined up incredibly well. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about this film. This is the grossest American horror film I've ever seen. If this was any grosser, it would be an Italian horror film. That is some deep commentary for any horror movie fans. There's another reason why we saved this for the end. It's not just because I knew, like, okay, this is going to be the biggest B icon that we're going to talk about. It's also because I knew I would need time to mentally prepare myself and my stomach to watch this thing. Because this is probably the third time that I have watched this film. And we have seen a couple other films so far this month in which I said, yeah, it feels like this movie gets better every single time that I watch it. This movie gets grosser every single time that I watch it. Oh my God. This is your first time seeing it.
Yeah.
How did you feel about this?
I felt the Collector was way more gruesome.
Yeah, the Collector was gross.
But the thing is, like, with the Re-Animator, there's a reason why there's so much gore. It's because, like, they're in a hospital, so they have to, like, perform, like, surgeries and everything.
The reason why this is grosser to me than the Collector, though, is that the Collector, yeah, there's gruesome stuff in there, but it still feels like it's trying to sensationalize all of it. This movie, there are a lot of scenes in here in which they are just in the morgue or they are in the medical school and they're examining bodies, and it's not sensationalized, it's trying to be kind of accurate.
And that's why it
gets me, because it feels more real. Like to me, one of the grossest things in here is early on, the evil doctor in here, he is examining a corpse, and he just takes a Q-tip and just puts it in a little hole in the person's head, and you just have the camera focus as the Q-tip just goes down into the head, and then they just slowly bring it back out. That got me because it looks very real.
Like, maybe it's because, like, I'm taking anatomy classes and everything for and drawing figures and stuff, but it's
the opening credits of this look like one of your classes, yeah.
But yeah, it's like, if it's like more realistic, it doesn't really bother me as much.
Oh, really? Interesting.
But like when it's just like gross out for the sake of like shock horror is like, okay, that is way too much. You guys need to calm down. Although, ironically, if I do actually see like an actual like surgery going on, like a real life surgery, it does get does make me a little bit squeamish.
Oh yeah, I always got squeamish in biology class whenever it was like, and here's a look at the inside of the human body. Like, I could not handle looking at like pictures of the human brain. It always grossed me out.
How about when you had to dissect a frog?
I actually, in high school, when it got to that point where it's like, all right, next semester you're gonna have to take this class and you're gonna have to dissect a frog, I went, or I can work my ass off and then place out of that class. And then place into not calculus, but, oh God, what was it? What was the thing above biology in my school? I can't remember what it was. It wasn't calculus, because that was math. But yeah, it was some other science class. Maybe it was like physics or something. I can't remember what it was, but there was something that was above biology, which was like for the really like hardcore science people. And I was not a hardcore science guy, but I was like, I'm not doing that. So I worked my ass off, got great grades on that, and then for next semester I was like, I'm taking the next thing. So I never dissected an animal. I am proud to say that I was able to avoid that shit.
Meanwhile,
high school.
Meanwhile, I was like, well, they're already dead. I can't really do much about it. It's like, oh, this is actually pretty cool, but like...
Yeah, no, I knew I would not be able to. There was a moment here in which they're in class and the evil doctor is cutting open the human brain. There are moments in here during like the end where you've got just a bunch of like naked zombies like exploding into like flesh and stuff. I was fine with that. This moment of a doctor's going, and then we just put your fingers underneath the scalp and the incision that you made. You just have to pull back, and then you see the skull, and then you take the saw and you start to cut open, and like. That was the thing that I was like, I can't. And like, he's giving this whole speech with this brainless body there, and like, you can see from the angle that's at, you can see like the whole inside the human head where like the brain cord, whatever it's called, spinal cord, is going down into the body. I'm like, oh God. No. Like, that was messing me up more than anything else in this film. Yeah. And a lot of it has to do with the sound editing in here. Man, whoever had to make the sound effects for this movie had a field day. That person was just going off in this movie. Kudos to them. They must have loved their job on this set. I do not want to imagine what they had to buy at the hardware and grocery store in order to make all these sounds. Bunch of grapes and pasta. All right. So, anyway, what this movie is about is it stars Herbert West, who, it's weird, he is the titular Re-Animator, but there's another guy in there who has a little bit more screen time than Herbert West, and he's the atypical, like, hunky action dude, the guy who, like, fights off the zombies, and we're gonna get a little bit of spoilers here for everybody, but, he's the guy who ends up surviving towards the end. Herbert West, it's kind of, you don't really know what happens to him at the end. But you're following this guy, his roommate, the hunky guy, until the very end. So it definitely seems like he's meant to be our protagonist, but the fact that I know the Re-Animator is Herbert West, and I don't know this other guy's name, kind of lets you know everything that you need to know about who's the real star of this movie.
It's like, to me, like, the Re-Animator is like more like a title.
Yeah.
Because, it depends on who's doing the reanimating, honestly.
It could just be the weird, like, ecto-cooler that they're injecting into people's heads. Man, I miss Ecto Cooler.
Me too.
They brought that back like 4 years ago when that other Ghostbusters film came out. That stuff,
they should bring that back every Halloween. Like,
we bought that stuff thinking, okay, this stuff, it's not going to be as good as we remember it. No, it was as good as I remember it from when I was a kid.
Yeah, if they can, like, bring back Count Chocula for every Halloween and whatever, like, why not bring back Ecto Cooler?
Oh, man, it just hit me. We're not going to be able to get any of those cereals this year.
Well, maybe if we order them online.
We'll see if we can order some online. Yeah, because we can't go to the store that has it, because that's, like, involves taking the subway, and I'm not getting on the fucking subway for Count Chocula. Oh, I'll come back looking like Boo Berry. All right. Anyway, but yeah, so it starts Herbert West, and he's going to the school, and he's trying to figure out a way to defeat death. So he creates this serum, which is this glowing green goop, and he injects it into people, and it brings them back as zombies. But they're a little bit. It just occurred to me how short the synopsis of this film is.
Yeah.
Because I'm already 2/3 of the way into the movie right now. And they come back, and it's basically they just have like their primal instincts.
Yeah.
And he eventually ends up. We're gonna, like I said, we're getting into spoiler territory on this quick because there isn't really much to talk about up until the spoiler part. There's this doctor there who he has been just trash talking this doctor the entire time. Like Herbert West, he's really only the hero of this film in the fact that he's got the best personality that you want to see continue on into other films. Outside of that, he's an asshole. Because
he's the smart guy who thinks he's like better than
he's
the teacher.
Mandark,
yes.
is what he is. Yeah, he's not even Dexter. He's Mandark is what he is. This guy, he is such a nerd. And man, I don't know the name of the actor who played the Re-Animator, who played Herbert West, but oh man, was he just perfect for this. If you did not get an actor who just sank into that role so well, just tried it on like a perfect fitting pair of shoes, this series would not have gone past the first movie. Instead, there's Re-Animator, Bride of Re-Animator, there's a third Re-Animator film, and there was like a reboot, but then again, this is based on an H.P. Lovecraft thing, so it's not really a reboot, it's more just another adaptation, but still. There's a reason that reboot didn't take off, it's because people know the original. But yeah, this whole franchise works because the actor they got to play Herbert West was so good for Herbert West. But the moment that he shows up at the school, he meets one of their top teachers and just immediately starts shit-talking him to his face about how all of his theories are bad and about how he just stole all these theories from other people.
Yeah, and how he's like inaccurate and everything.
Yeah, and how he was studying in Europe, and he says over in Europe they won't even teach your stuff because of how inaccurate it is. Saying this shit like immediately after he meets him. And the teacher he's talking to is terrible. He's a horrible person. You eventually find out that he's obsessed with the guy who's supposed to be the protagonist with his girlfriend.
I thought they were like a fiance. Like I thought.
Yeah, probably. No, because I don't think they are fiance yet because I think. No. They might be. I'm mixing up characters in my head. All right. Yeah, they might be. Anyway, they're in a relationship. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's like obsessed with her to like a stalker level where he's like keeping locks of her hair around. Which, man, there's very few hints of that up until that. So it almost feels like they wrote it into the script at that exact moment. But when you look back at it, it's like, no, at that dinner party, he was a little bit overprotective of her dating someone else. So it's like, yeah, it's a little bit weird there. But anyway, there comes a moment in which that guy goes full evil. He discovers Herbert West has a reanimation serum, and he decides he's going to take that serum and he's going to blackmail Herbert West. So Herbert West kills him, decapitates him, and because Herbert West just has to experiment on this guy has a problem. Like the moment
he just can't
it,
stop.
No, because I mean there was a moment in which they sneak into the morgue and they're injecting bodies, and this one body goes absolutely nuts and is hulking out and just breaking through walls. And then the dean comes in. The dean who has already told him you can't go into the morgue anymore.
The dean who happens to be the girlfriend's dad.
Dad, yes. He's already told them after he finds out about this reanimation fluid, you guys need to stay the fuck away from that morgue. Get away from there. You are banned from going in there. So they sneak in, and the dean goes in there, so they already know they're in trouble if they run this dean. It's almost like this thing is like part Night of the Living Dead, part Animal House in a way. Because you've got the mean old dean in there, and the mean teachers. In fact, the bad teacher almost even looks like just an amalgam of the dean from Animal House and the principal from Breakfast Club. Like, if you smash them together, it'd be both those guys in one. But anyway, the zombie they create ends up killing the dean, and our protagonist is shocked by this. Herbert West just immediately goes, this is the freshest body we're going to find without killing one ourselves. We have to inject it. It's like, oh my god, this guy has got his eye way too on the prize. Yeah, it is alarming how much Herbert West is just obsessed with making this work. So he ends up killing off the evil teacher and injects him with this serum just because he's like,
He's like, I wonder if it works on body parts. Like,
yeah, like not at all even alarmed by the fact he just murdered someone. As far as we know, this is his first kill, but he is so nonchalant about it. It's like, what were you doing over in Europe? Well, how did, like, because we never even see him invent the reanimation fluid. So it's like, what
we don't
did
even
you
know,
do?
like, what he did with the cat. It's literally like Schrodinger's cat.
Oh, it very much is. Because the first thing that we see him use it on is his roommate's cat, and the cat just appears in the fridge already dead. It's like, it knocked over the trash and got its head stuck inside of a bottle. It suffocated in there. I didn't want you to see it that way. It would be alarming to you. And what should I do? Even leave a note just saying, cat dead, I'm sorry? What should I even do? And yet you just looking at that going, ooh, Herbert West is sus. Ooh, I don't know about that. Yeah, and it's never answered. It is never answered. And I like that. I like that. It's left up to the audience. Like, maybe he killed the cat. We don't know. Which, by the way, this thing, it is meant to be a horror comedy.
Yeah, I could tell.
The best gag in the entire thing is when he's trying to keep the head up straight and he keeps falling over. So he takes this thing that is meant to just collect notes, like one of those things that you see at a restaurant that they hold receipts on. Just takes all the papers off and shoves it on there. It's like, it's one of the best visual gags in this entire thing.
I thought it was like hilarious when he was like trying to get the reanimated cat off him because it is so obvious that it's like a fake dummy cat, and just like the way that they just throw it across the room and like smash it on the table.
Like twice too. Like they do it, it comes back, and they do it again. I was alarmed at how many things you were laughing at in here, because there's some pretty grotesque jokes. And every now and again I would look over at you and you would have that look on your face of, ew. But then like 5 minutes later you'd be laughing your ass off at a scene.
I think it's because like I'm trying to hold back my laughter.
That could be it, alright. But yeah, so he reanimates this head and he decides to reanimate the body, see if they operate separately. And it becomes one of the strangest horror movie villains I have ever seen, and yet it is one of the things that makes this, like, it just sums up how special this movie is. This isn't one of my favorite horror films, but goddamn, I can understand this being somebody's number one, because it is so, like, you look at this and there's just nothing else like this. The villain of this thing is an evil doctor who is just a head, and his body is carrying around the head in, like, a little tray filled with blood. And there's so many, like, it sounds horrifying and disgusting, but there's so many, like, they don't get goofy with it, but they get just close enough to being goofy that they never break the tension, but they still, like, liven up the mood every now and again. It's kind of wild how this film plays with tones, and they kind of go all over the place, but they still stay on track. They still stay the course of what this movie is supposed to be. And, speaking of that head, they do some interesting things with that, and, let's just say the gore in this film is not the most disturbing part of this film.
Yeah.
And, this might have been the moment that I looked over at you and you were giving the,
Yeah.
There is a scene between the doctor, and the lady who he has an obsession with.
Yes.
By the way, I'm aware there are things happening outside of our window right now. Sorry, we're not redoing this take. So just ignore the noises, everyone. By the way, I'm also aware that whenever I go back and edit these tapes, 9 times out of 10 when I go, oh, there's sounds happening outside the window, you can't hear them at all.
Like, I was gonna say, like, will a microphone even pick that up?
I don't know, but I'm not risking it. Herbert West is rolling his bodies around out there, everybody. I apologize. Yeah, so I'm not even going to go into this. I do just have to bring up, this is one of the strangest goddamn scenes that I have ever seen in any movie ever. Not going to say anything more about, but if you've seen it, you know what the scene is. It's really messed up. And I mentioned earlier, if this thing was any gorier, it would be an Italian horror film. This is some Italian horror film shit. This is some of that stuff that I'm like, oh god. I don't think Herbert West was the only one who got sent away to Europe. I think that I want to know who made this film and what he grew up Like, what other films did you make before this? Anyway. But, as weird and disturbing and as messed up as that scene is, again, it fits the tone of what this movie is. So you can't even be like, oh, that's gratuitous. No, you look at it and go, well, that's Re-Animator. So yeah, anything else that you want to say about this?
No. I mean, like, some of the effects are outdated, but I think that's what made it so funny in the first place. Like,
yeah, it's some of those effects actually kind of work. Like, there's a moment where they throw a head against a wall, and there's just a pile of goop there on that wall afterwards. And I don't know why, but it kind of cracked me up, just that, like splot of jello up there. Also, gotta love the security guard in this film.
like, he does not give a fuck at all.
Just how little he cares. Is great. And there's a moment in which it almost felt like that dude was the actual security guard for the location they were shooting in, and they just liked him and decided to put him in here. Because his acting talent, it's not great, but it's just good enough. They're like, yeah, he seems like a friendly security guard. Yeah, he seems like that. But there's that moment in which, like, things are going wrong and he has to break in there and see what's going on. And it's like, that felt like the first time in which he actually had to read lines in here. And it's like, yeah, I think that you were just the friendly security guard who worked in this place. Because the rest of the time, he's just joking around with him, and he's like, yeah, it seemed like a jokey security guard guy. But, like, when he walks in there, in that scene to see what's going on, and he's holding his gun, he's holding the gun by the pistol. So it's, like, coming out here, and then, like, the holster is down here, and he's holding the gun like that. And I went, did no one think to tell him to change that? Did no one, what?
So he's like holding the gun upside down pretty much? Or?
Not like 90-degree angle. Like that's how a gun's supposed to be held. Bam. He's holding it like that. But like still holding it like that. So pistol there, holster here is like, what? And I never even know. Like I said, I've seen this 3 times. This is the first time I ever noticed that. So granted, there's other things going on in that scene. But yeah, it's one of the weirdest things that in this entire film because it almost feels like, did no one even catch that? Why? Or is it supposed to be on purpose? Or are they supposed to be saying
like so freaked out that he doesn't realize how to
just showing that he's incompetent? I don't know.
I mean, it's like, what is he gonna shoot? Dead people? Like,
well, I mean, like, why would you hold a gun? Like, I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's just very weird, but it's one of those things that like I just had to stop and point out because, yeah, I've seen this multiple times. Never noticed it until this time. But yeah, I do really enjoy this film, but man, yeah, there's just so many particular things in here that make it hard for me to watch. So it's not one of my favorites, but it is definitely one of the most unique horror films out there. If you've never seen Re-Animator and you want some good B-movie cheese and a lot of gore, this is the movie to go with. So yeah, that's it. That is it for the B Squad week, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in next week, or tomorrow, I should say, which is next week. We'll be starting the second theme week, which is going to be, I want to do something topical this year, and there was a lot of topical things to choose from. But I think the thing that we can all relate to is quarantine and being stuck indoors for an entire year. So the next theme is not going anywhere for a while. They are horror films about people who are trapped in locations. So make sure that you come back for that. And also, that's going to be our theme for the next week. But the theme for the week after that is going to be viewer choice. So if you have any horror films that you want us to review, let us know in the comments down below. Just going to go ahead and say this now, though. Pick one. I have already had people contacting me on Twitter, which you can also contact me on Twitter at Professor Thorgiween and let me know what horror films you want to see there. In fact, in all honesty, that's an easier way for me to get your request. However, I have already had people contact me on Twitter with like 12 different movies in one.
Yeah,
person.
one
like,
request per person.
Not happening, man. You gotta pick one. You gotta pick one. That is completely unfair to everybody else out there who follows the rules and picks one. Yeah, so pick one movie. I will stretch that rule and say if you can't pick one and you can get down to 2, fine. but man, 1 is preferable. And if you send me if you send me double digits, it ain't happening. Just letting you know right now. Try again, get it down to 1, send it to me again. But yeah, there you go, everybody. Come back tomorrow for our next theme week. And as always, happy Halloween. That was a very weird and always. and as always, sure you do.
Uh-oh, need to reanimate him.
Happy Halloween.